Well, it's 12:30 in the morning, and this is going to be a quiet episode of Patcast because if I wake up my wife, you will never see me again.
I feel like we can run the table. I really do.
Giants looking for a stop. They're going to air it out. Rodgers does this better than anybody. End zone, Cobb, touchdown! Unbelievable! This to send the Packers into the NFC Championship game. It is good! The Packers are moving on! Aaron Rodgers has done it again!
Grassy Posse Packer Nation, welcome to another episode of Patcast. It's like I just saw you 5 hours ago for the previous episode, but we're back again discussing the Packers-Bears game, which, wow, what a very great game, said no one ever. I mean, listen, I am all for blowouts, but this was just wrong, and it was ugly. But the Packers finishing up the game 35-14. There's about 60 seconds left in the game, so unless the Bears somehow decide to play offense, it looks like that's what the final score is going to be. A couple big things here. Let's get the weird stuff out of the way first. There was a 47-minute weather delay in which there was torrential downpour, lightning, and they delayed that, hence why this is coming out so late. Also, the Packers now take the series lead against the Chicago Bears, 95-94-6. So this is the first time since 1933 that the Packers have taken the lead over the Bears. So that's very exciting stuff. Also, Clay Matthews became the new sack leader. Has the most amount of sacks in Packers history with 75. So that was pretty impressive. Let's talk about injuries real quick. Mike Daniels, Bulaga, and Bakhtiari, they did not play this evening, but again, the defense looked pretty solid. Offensive line held up when it needed to. Rodgers was not getting knocked around like he was last week, and also the week before that in Atlanta. But let's talk about some other newly developed injuries, and this is kind of like a little mini bye week because they're not playing a game for about 11 days. And good God, do they need it? Ty Montgomery looks like he has broken ribs, so that is very unfortunate. He might be able to play through it, but Tony Romo was alluding to this too, that's very, one, painful to play through, and two, once teams know that you have broken ribs, they're going to be targeting that. You also have Jamal Williams, who also was injured, so that it was the backup running back, and the bad one was Davante Adams. So he got just nailed by Trevathan, and I have to say, like, that hit was disgusting. My jaw just dropped to the floor as soon as I saw that, because it was a completely unnecessary hit. Davante was not scoring a touchdown. He wasn't getting a first down. He was wrapped up, and it was just a brutal hit, helmet to helmet. Thankfully, he gave the thumbs up as he was being carried away on a stretcher, but he went immediate limp. They took him to the hospital. He is conscious. He has movement. There's no paralysis or anything like that. So hopefully it was just a little bit of a scare. It looked really bad. His mouthpiece went flying, and hopefully it's not as bad as it looked. But if Trevathan, he's going to get a minimum of fine. And if anything, in my opinion, it calls for a suspension, because that's the kind of stuff that the NFL they're implementing all these new safety rules, and exactly for this reason, and such an unnecessary hit. That was a really crappy hit by Trevathan, and he didn't really look too apologetic because he was getting up in people's faces after that. The defense overall, finally we got interceptions. We got 2 of them against the Bears, so we got 2 now on the season because we hadn't had any picks to begin with. We also got some fumbles as well, and Mike Glennon just looked. Here's the thing about Mike Glennon. He's not a good quarterback, but you can't blame everything on him tonight because he just has no offensive weapons whatsoever. He has the running game, but when you are down 14-0 real quick, there's nothing really that you can do. And then eventually, I mean, they were never really closer than 2 scores. So I can understand, you can't blame it completely on Glennon, but I think if Glennon doesn't score a touchdown before halftime, Trubisky could have come in. And I said this in the previous episode, I think Trubisky's going to be in there before the season's out. I would be shocked if he's not in there by about week 6. So we'll see what happens with that. Aaron Jones, the third string running back, he looked good. I like the way that he runs. He runs really fast. He runs really hard. He got his first touchdown. He got 12 carries, 47 yards. I mean, this is good stuff that I would want to see. Someone on Twitter reached out, because now we just have Ripkowski and we have Aaron Jones. We also have the other backup, but about calling Eddie lazy. And listen, notice who you're not hearing anymore. Lacy was a healthy scratch from the Seahawks. So I loved Eddie, and I was shocked to hear that he left Green Bay at first, but now I'm kind of glad that he did, because we're moving on from him. We're moving past him. I always like Eddie as a person, but I mean, the guy, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's lack of motivation. I don't really understand it, but he is not the same football player that he was in the beginning. So I say no Lacy. I would say sign John Kuhn, but he just got put on IR from New Orleans, so he's not going to be able to do that. Rodgers played well. He 18 for 26, only 179 yards, but again, they had short fields the entire night, but he had 4 touchdowns. Randall Cobb had a touchdown. Davante Adams had a touchdown. Jordy Nelson, 4 for 75 with 2 touchdowns. Jordy looked great. I actually just traded for him in one of my fantasy leagues, which I am very happy I got him. So that should be... I mean, listen, I'm not worried about this offense in any way, shape, or form. The biggest players that I am worried about are the offensive line. If we get them back, and if we can get Monty back pretty soon, I think we'll be okay. Overall, though, this was a really ugly game. I think the refs blew a bunch of different calls for both teams, in that they called PI with Davante Adams, and it wasn't PI. The tip punt, which didn't exist. There was a bunch of different calls that really, it was an ugly game. It looked like you couldn't go 5 minutes without a flag, and the announcers were even joking about it at some point. You also have Damarious Randall. Let's talk about him super quick. You didn't hear his name too much, but he did blow one of those touchdowns to Kendall Wright right before the half, and it was just a fade route. It was him one-on-one, and this is the kind, like, I've been a big defender of Randall, but I'm not seeing the jump. And listen, I was all over Davante Adams before he made the jump and the progression last year. But like, we really need to start seeing things from Damarious Randall. And if we don't, then we have to think about moving past him, because we do have some up-and-coming defensive backs like Kevin King. He missed a big tackle, but he played well again tonight. But again, this is not a good offensive team. And so that being said, once we play like those explosive offenses like Atlanta, like Pittsburgh, like Dallas, which is going to be the next game, which I argue is going to be one of the hardest games of the season, the ones that I see is Dallas and Pittsburgh. Those are going to be the most difficult ones now left on the schedule. So we really need to make sure that defense is all shored up, because Mike Glennon's not going to be behind center for every team that we play. But yeah, so I mean, we got 11 days off. That's going to be a nice rest. Hopefully people can rest up. We'll get just about everybody back. I'm hopeful for Davante Adams. We'll see what happens with Monty. But yeah, at this point, I just really hope that Davante Adams is okay. But what did you think about the game? Usually I love watching blowouts, but I think maybe just like the 45 minutes for the weather delay, and then the game was never really competitive. It actually kind of got boring for me, and I usually love watching blowouts because they don't happen so often with the Packers. But yeah, I thought it was pretty good. The offense looked good, and then the defense, again, look who they're playing against, but they got some turnovers when they needed to. But let me know what you thought in the comments. Hopefully we'll all get healthy and we can have a great game against Dallas, because now we're at Dallas and then we're at Minnesota. So this is going to be a hard stretch of games. You can always find me at TomGrossiComedy.com, TomGrossi Comedy, or Tom Grossi Comedy on the Twitter. Follow us on Packcast, Packast. We're on SoundCloud, iTunes, YouTube, and also Google Play Music twice a week. So you can check us out there. We also do our prediction videos every Saturday, so check those out. Thank you so much for watching. I hope my wife didn't wake up, because I'm going to be murdered if she did. And as always, go Pack Go.